This week on the Analog Circle podcast, due to an update, we may know what Resident Evil will be getting the remake treatment next. We get confirmation on whether or not Final Fantasy VII Remake and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth will ever come to Xbox. Man, anyway, we'll get into it a little later. A new company is bursting on the gaming scene to have you become even more immersed inside of some of your favorite gaming worlds. And I will tell you this, it is not a new VR headset. This is something a little different. And PlayStation has dropped the price of their PlayStation 5 consoles. All of these stories can be found here and many more in episode 199. It is actually episode 200 of the Analog Circle podcast. Welcome to the show. Welcome. 200 episodes deep. Pretty doggone incredible. I didn't think I would make it this doggone far. But anyway, welcome to the show once again. I'm always glad to have you guys here. It is always a privilege to have you guys tune in. Now, if you guys do want to be a part of listener feedback, which will be coming up very, very soon, you can do it two different ways, man. You can either email the show, and the email address is the Analog Circle Podcast at gmail.com, or you can call in, and the phone number to call in is 443-380-0281, and let your voice literally be heard. So with that being said, guys, you guys know that I am late getting here. I was supposed to have recorded on Sunday, and when that hour sprung forward, I said, oh, shucks, put a brother in a bad spot. I said, ain't no way I'm going to be able to record tonight and go to work. So my apologies for that. But I do want to implore you guys, if you do want to keep up with not just the status of the show, because whenever I'm not going to record, I'll always put it inside of the Facebook group, the Analog Circle Facebook group. That's where you can always keep up with the show, where you can download the show and keep up to date with all of the latest gaming stories that are happening in the gaming industry. Shout out to Mr. Lawrence Jones for doing that, by the way. Yes, indeed. Shout out to that good brother. It was so good having him on the show as well. But I would definitely implore you guys to subscribe. It's a great time, great conversation. Shout out to Texas in there as well. That brother, he put up something that really, really, made my jaw drop. I was a little hurt, but we'll go over that probably a little later as well. But anyway, guys, with all of that being said, let's go ahead and get into what we all come here for, and that is the gaming news. Got it right this time. That went down. So let's get things started with the story that I actually got from IGN. Let's get things started with the one, with one of the bigger titles releasing on April 26th. And that is Stellar Blade. Now, earlier in the week, or I should say last week, Korean developer Shift Up mistakenly published a demo for the game, then almost immediately took it down, but not before a select few managed to download it and start streaming it on Twitch. So knowing that this demo is real, it makes me wonder, will this demo be released to the public officially closer to the launch of the actual game? I mean, we know PlayStation hasn't been gun shy at all when it comes to releasing demos for big games on their platform. Or will this demo be included in the PS Plus service? Kind of like they did with, I'm all tongue-tied with Spider-Man 2. Man, it's going to be one of those shows, brothers. I already can feel it. Man, so basically what I'm asking you guys is, will this demo, Stellar Blade, will they release it normally like they have done with Final Fantasy VII Remake, or like they just did more recently with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? Will it be something that will be available to the public, or will this demo fall under their more higher tier of PlayStation Plus, where you'll have to be pretty much a premium member to be able to access this demo? Or will the demo not happen at all? Now, I'm more so leaning towards the demo actually being a thing, because especially with a game like Stellar Blade, where there is no other game in that potential franchise to compare it to, this being that game's first outing under a new developer that none of us have heard of, being Shift Up, I think it would make more sense for them to actually release this demo to the public. Don't have it hidden behind PlayStation Plus or the premium tier of PlayStation Plus, but have this demo be available for anyone that wants to give it a shot, or anyone that has been interested in the game like myself, to give them a chance to actually try this out and hopefully enjoy it and go out there and support it. Because that is one thing that, and I can understand it to a certain degree, that has been lacking in gaming for not a long time, but it's definitely stretches that go by where we may not get a demo of a highly anticipated game that will be coming out, because we know that sometimes a demo, it can sabotage a game before it even officially comes out. We know that same thing happened with Forspoken. Now, granted, unfortunately for Forspoken, if you listen to the critics out there that have played the game and reviewed it, they said it was not that great of a game. And we have been hearing about that from the demo itself, I should say by itself. So sometimes the demo, it can help a game, and sometimes it can't, I should say it not can't, but sometimes it just won't help a game. But then you have your success stories like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, where everybody loved that demo. So hopefully that game is doing well. I think it was well over 100 and something thousand copies sold, which is still abysmal, if you ask me. I think that was over in Japan sales. The last time I checked, I think that was sometime last week. I think Porter Rock was going over that on his show. Shout out to Porter Rock. Matter of fact, man, shout out. It's a couple of podcasts I want to shout out, but I'll get to those in just a minute. But so hopefully with this Stellar Blade situation, hopefully this demo comes out closer to the release of the game. We know that April, the way the year is flying by, we're already almost in mid-March as it were right now. So we know that April is literally right around the corner, and will be coming up very, very soon. So hopefully this will be a demo that will get closer to the game, and hopefully it is really, really good. Like I don't want to say praying, it ain't that serious, but like I'm really hoping for it to be. But we're going to move on into the next story. But before we move into the next story, I always like to shout out good brothers doing, fantastic work. I wouldn't want you guys just listening to me. It's a couple of podcasts that I listen to, that I'm really a genuine fan of. I mean, of course, I got to mention Gamer Tag Radio. Shout out to those brothers, Danny, Paris and Pete. Shout out to those brothers. Also, shout out to Z, man. Yeah, that brother right there. Him, J-Dub, Post Up. I mean, those brothers, man, that has to be one of the best shows. That Joker has me tripping when I listen to that show. So I want to shout them out, the Broadband Bullies. Those guys are always like great to listen to. And like I said, Porter Rock as well. Porter Rock too, man. Shout out to him. I enjoy the work that he does as well. And you got Weapon Wheel. You got, with BG, shout out to him. And you got Hard 8, as well with Any Given Sunday. So I just want to shout out all of those brothers, so, if you want to listen to some podcasts, those are definitely, outside of Gamer Tag Radio. Yeah, you getting rated all content over there. Yeah, those brothers, they definitely speak their mind. They gonna give it to you raw and uncut like ODB. So if you got kids in the car or anything like that, you might want to not listen to it while they're in the car, unless you don't mind your kids, hearing grown conversations, as it were, pertaining to gaming, though. But anyway, let's get into the next story. So this next story that I want to go over, I actually got it from Screen Rant. So due to a Steam, man, I'm all tongue-tied. Let's try this again. Due to a Steam update, Capcom may have revealed what game in the Resident Evil franchise is getting the remake treatment. And it appears to be, and this is not one of the ones that I was really looking forward to, I'm going to be honest, but it looks like it's going to be Resident Evil 5, which is a very odd choice, because people didn't necessarily say Resident Evil 5 was a bad game. It was just such a departure from what Resident Evil was known for, more of the survival horror. They put more of an action adventure kind of spin on it with co-op. So this is just interesting. So let's talk about it. So the person that is lining up the dots for this, his name is and I'm a definitely butcher this brother's name, Alarabia. It's spelled Alarabiya. Alarabia, god darn, who is on Reddit, pointed out that the changes that happened to Resident Evil 5 Steam DB resembles what happened with the original Resident Evil 4, where he said, quote, "It is not clear to us why this was done, except and he put in parentheses, sick, which is spelled SIC, happened with Resident Evil 4 Remake and Classic, when the name Resident Evil 4 was deleted from the Classic and was replaced after a while with Resident Evil 4 2005 in order to be different from the remake Resident Evil 4 only." End of quote. So in the data mine, Capcom is doing the same thing again with Resident Evil 5, where they're no longer just saying Resident Evil 5, but instead are labeling it as Resident Evil 2009. So usually, when you see a pattern, it can at least give you an idea of what to expect. So if they did it once and it looks like they're doing it again, I'm not saying it's a sure shoe in as the next game that they are working on, but when you see something repeat the same pattern, it's at least a little bit of, like they say, if it's smoke, it's fire, so it could be something here. It's just, for me, I don't think I would necessarily have a problem with Resident Evil 5, even though I did not play Resident Evil 5 when it first released. But to be fair, I didn't play Resident Evil 4 either. I was kind of in a space at that time where I was just kind of done with the Resident Evil franchise as a whole. I had moved on to other games. I was playing Metal Gear, probably was playing DMC at the time, some Final Fantasy, as well as whatever other games were out at that time. So it wasn't necessarily a situation where, for me, I didn't pick up Resident Evil 5 because they changed the pace of the game and kind of stepped out of the box of what they were originally known to do. I thought it was a good thing. I mean, I know that it caused some controversy. Oh, man. Jokers in the controversy. Jokers asking why is a Caucasian brother shooting down the African brothers over here. Oh, man. I said, God, dog, man. There's always some kind of angle there. I just, I said, hey, it is what it is. It's Resident Evil. It's on script. I mean, they had a sister with them, with Chris Redfield, I think it was. So, I mean, it didn't really trigger me too much. I tell you what, though, I can only imagine if Dr. Umar Johnson was around. Oh, man. goodness gracious. But, man, we going too far left right now. Let's get this thing back on track. But, yeah, so this could possibly be the next game in the franchise. I'm not looking forward to this, but I'm not opposed to it either, because I'm going to tell you, if those graphics are on point and it looks like a fun game, I will probably pick it up. I mean, just like Resident Evil 4 Remake, I did not have any interest in it when it came out on GameCube. I mean, it looked good, but I was like, oh man, that's all right. But having it actually have the remake today, I definitely wanted to pick it up, and I played that demo. Yet again, another demo being available on the PlayStation 5. It definitely got me to buy the game. So hopefully this will be some of their better work and not like Resident Evil 3 Remake. Hopefully they'll throw a couple of extra things into this to make this more intriguing, because I know that a lot of people, well, when I say a lot of people, I'm strictly talking about the internet, Facebook, just social media in general. I know that we're a small population of the hardcore. Trust me, I know. So when I refer to them, that's what I'm talking about. But there were a lot of people that wanted to or were hoping for a Resident Evil Codename Veronica remake. That's what I was hoping for. When I played that on Dreamcast back in the day, oh my gosh, game was ill, man. It was the best. When she dropped down and she had the gun in her hand and she acted like she was putting her hands up and she acted like she was dropping the gun, but she like leaned down, like fell with the gun and held it, caught it with her hand and shot the people in the tanker or whatever, blew up in the background. I said, this is gonna be amazing. And it was fantastic. So, man, Capcom, I was hoping that would have been the one, but again, this is not confirmed by Capcom to be the case that it is most definitely Resident Evil 5, but at least based off of the breadcrumbs, it looks like this is going to be the next game that will be being remade in the Resident Evil franchise. Let's go ahead and move on into the next story. Now, this next story, I actually got it from App Trigger. So let's get into some new Spider-Man 2 features. So patch 1.002.000 is live and ready for download. So this update features New Game Plus, which we had heard of that already. So that's great. You have New Game Plus. It will also come with ultimate levels, which mean your levels go beyond the maximum level cap of the game. So, I mean, for example, if you already hit max level ultimate, if you hit max level, ultimate levels are here to let you expand on that level and level up a little bit more. So outside of that feature, you'll also be able to unlock new symbiote. I don't know how do you pronounce it, y'all? Is it symbiote? Y'all know what I'm talking about. The black suit, though, the symbiote suit. You'll be able to get some of those. You'll be able to get a new suit tech / perks and even upgrade your gadgets to get them to a one of a kind golden. Man, I feel like scratching this whole podcast. I ain't gonna lie to you. I feel like scraping the whole darn thing right now. You know what? I'm scraping it. You know what? I lied. I ain't scrape a doggone thing. I stopped the podcast. I contemplated, and then I looked down at the time. I said, brother, you crazy. You better keep on going. I ain't got all that much time to start all the way back over. I am tripping. So y'all just bear with me while I get my words together here, okay? So I left off where I said, about that symbiote suit. So you're going to be able to get symbiote suits, as they said. Now, you're going to be able to get new suit tech perks, and even upgrade your gadgets to get them to a one-of-a-kind golden look. That is interesting. A golden look. That sounds good, though. Now, if you're a trophy hunter, there will be new trophies available for these players. What? Oh, I'm sorry. For those players that complete the New Game Plus campaign. So I guess if you go through the New Game Plus again, going through the campaign, you'll be able to uncover some brand new trophies for doing that. That is good. Now, they have also added mission replay, which allows you to play any mission over and over again. Now, that's a good feature because there are some missions that you don't necessarily want to go all the way through the game again, but you just want to replay that one mission. I mean, for me, thinking about it just off the top of my head, that Nathan Drake level where you're what is it, man? You're with your brother. He picks you up off of the motorcycle. But before you even get to that point, you're getting dragged by a rope, and then you fall off a pier, and you're shooting and you're dodging stuff. It was the same thing that they showed at E3. That was like, man, one of the best scenes ever. So if you want to go back in Spider-Man 2 and play something like that, you'll have the option to just strictly play that one mission and then move on. So outside of that, they added time of day settings where you can switch it to a time you prefer while playing that mission. So yeah, if you want to do it at night, you'll be able to. If you want to do it during the day, you'll be able to. Now, I don't know if they have dusk and, dawn in there as an option as well. I'm thinking it's just day and night cycles because I haven't opened up the game yet. So I'm oblivious to what these time of day settings could be. But the good thing is you'll be able to switch them to the time that you prefer while playing that mission. And they also added a new photo mode that adds a lot of flexibility to photos that are taken. So again, that is the newest patch for Spider-Man 2. If any of these features interest you, these are all free as well, so you don't have to worry about paying for anything. If they interest you, definitely jump back on the sticks, get some extra trophies, play some of your favorite missions in Spider-Man 2 without having to play the full campaign again. And just have a good time with it and enjoy yourself. So let's go ahead and let's move on into the next story that I actually got from WCCF Tech. So for years, now this really got me a little excited, but for years we have been hearing, and some have been hoping, that Final Fantasy VII Remake would be coming to rival consoles, mainly Xbox. But we never got a clear answer, and that was until now. So according to Sony's Entertainment's VP of second and third party content ventures and strategic initiatives, his name is Christian Severson. This might be a woman too, but their name is Christian Severson. It's spelled SVENSSON. Both Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth have been secured as, and listen closely, have been secured as console exclusives forever. So in a Washington Post interview, Svesson said, and I quote, "Securing Remake and Rebirth as console exclusives is a feather in the PlayStation cap. It's part of recognizing the original game's importance as a defining game for the PlayStation experience." He also added, quote, "Console exclusivity was mutually desired when the Remake project fired up," end of quote. So it's a man. This is something that I applaud. I applaud this because it is necessary. It's necessary. Exclusives sell consoles. Exclusives make up the makeup of your console. And I love the fact that they actually took it back. Now, granted, some people could say it is a shallow reason as to why they're not bringing it over to Xbox, but they said that they wanted to pretty much, let me read it again. It says for the PlayStation experience, hold on, let me see, where was it? Outside of the feather and PlayStation's cap, he said it's part of recognizing the original game's importance as a defining game for the PlayStation experience. And I believe that. Because if you go back, and this is during the N64 days and original PlayStation days, where PlayStation was just getting started, didn't have a lot of third-party support. They were starting to get people on board because a lot of these guys, a lot of these developers, they were getting tired of Nintendo's tactics and antics, and they were looking for somewhere else to go. So at that point in time, they did have a Final Fantasy game that was being geared up to be on the N64 at that time. But sometime later, all of a sudden, PlayStation got that game. And when they got Final Fantasy VII on the original PlayStation, it was a moment. It was a real moment in gaming where a person like me, who was never into turn-based RPGs, I used to look down on those jokers. I'm like, why are you even playing this? You don't have full control of your character. You got to pick a potion, pick to heal yourself. You got to let them hit you before you can hit them. This is ridiculous. This concept is terrible. This is like the Civil War back when they used to shoot each other in a straight line, not trying to flank, not trying to move. You just going to stand there and take bullets. This is crazy. You better find some cover. That's how I was looking at it. Like, this cannot be fun. But so many people were fans of Phantasy Star. They were fans of Shining Force back in the day, on the Genesis, and Final Fantasy, even at that time. So for me to have that kind of stigma against RPGs, excuse me, of that time period, for them to actually be able to get me to invest into the game, so much so that I pre-ordered it and I got the Final Fantasy VII shirt with Cloud on the front of it. My best friends, man. They're more like brothers than friends. Shout out to Mark and Renard. They took me to, at that time, it was Video Game Exchange. That was like the first game I bought with my own money on the PlayStation. That was the first game I bought. So for them to have gotten me to invest in it, and it was really, like I said, it was the graphics. I'm the same game I was back then today. The graphics were like the reason why I jumped in, seeing those cinematic scenes. It was incredible. So for them to actually want to, and again, for some, it'll be a ridiculous reason for them to do it that way, but for them to actually pretty much pay homage to this Final Fantasy VII, I'm thinking of it from that perspective of that was the first Final Fantasy that went to PlayStation, and it really defined PlayStation at that time. I mean, you had Resident Evil, Final Fantasy VII, and Metal Gear Solid. Those are like three of the biggest games on the platform. They really helped shape that platform. Then you had games like Tekken that came in, Battle Arena Toshinden, Time Cop. I mean, it goes on and on. But Final Fantasy VII, being that type of game, having that kind of movement at the time, it was incredible. So for them, they're just paying homage to that time, and they are not letting Xbox get this game on their platform. Now, again, I'm not opposed to it. I'm not. If we're still in the space of consoles, I still believe that each console should have their own identity. and their own identity is based around different games. So Final Fantasy is definitely part of PlayStation's identity, especially 7. Now, granted, we don't know what's going to happen with Final Fantasy 16. Maybe that's a game that's actually going to come over to Xbox at a later date. But it seems like this Final Fantasy 7 trilogy, because I'm sure that they said they're working on the third one right now. When it comes to Final Fantasy 7, this will not be coming to Xbox, at least not for the foreseeable future. But they said forever. But we do know that sometimes forever isn't forever. Unless you're Titanfall, because Titanfall 1 has still not come over to PlayStation yet. So we'll see what happens with this. But for now, expect for Final Fantasy 7 to be exclusive. The remake and the Rebirth ones to be exclusive to PlayStation. Let's move on into the next story. Man, we got so much more to go, and I am just rambling. So I'm going to try to speed up the pace a little bit here. So this next story, I got it from Tech Radar. Now, I found this next story very interesting because for years in gaming, we have been trying to interact more and more with our gaming experiences and become more immersed. Even just going back, from the early days of the arcade scene with, games like Afterburner, where the cabinet would actually move as you're inside of it, simulating you actually being in a doggone fighter jet, fighting the different enemies, making you feel immersed in that. And Sega was the best at their arcade cabinets. Man, they had some amazing cabinets back in the day. So we're always reaching for being more immersed in these gaming experiences, even to, more recently with today's time with VR. I remember back in the day with Lawnmower Man, seeing that, with the VR and everything back then, not me with the VR, but the movie, showing off what VR was back then. It was mind blowing. I mean, you look at it today, God dog. I mean, that might be PlayStation 1 graphics, looking at it from that perspective. But at that time, it was amazing. So we're constantly wanting to be more immersed in these gaming worlds. Even with PlayStation, I got to give them a lot of credit. That controller, man, that DualSense controller is incredible. It's a really, really good controller. So this whole time they're trying to make us more and more immersed in these gaming worlds. And it looks like somebody is trying to take it to another level, because a company called GameScent, SCENT, is trying to change the landscape again and make it so you can smell the environment you're playing in. So how it works is you'll be able to hook this up to your Xbox Series X, your PC, even your Nintendo Switch, and your PlayStation 5. You'll be able to hook this thing up wirelessly or wired. Now, it'll work with any game, since the AI just needs to record the audio cues from games and then apply them. So it will come with 5-cent bottles plus 1 neutralizer. So, once the smells are finished, this neutralizer is going to come out, spray the air, clear it, and, kind of reset your smell palette for the next set of smells coming. And some of the smells include, now these are interesting. You got gunfire, race car, storm, forest, and explosions, with 4 to 6 more scents planned to release by April of 2024 and 20 to 30 by the end of the year. Now, the GameScent unit will retail for $179.99. Now, my thing is, if you go back to the 80s and the 90s, if you're, in my age bracket of in your 40s, you might remember a time where they were playing with this idea of smell-o-vision. with the television, being able to smell the different scents, inside of the show that was going on or the sitcom at that time. It was very, very cheesy. It didn't really work. It was, it was just wasn't immersive enough. It was more like a scratch and sniff kind of thing. With this thing, again, I would definitely, recommend that you guys look it up. It is interesting in the sense that this thing is a nice size. It fills your room up with the smell. Now, this is one thing they did say, if I'm remembering the article correctly, when they were demoing it, when they were, getting the preview of it, they said that it definitely works. It works really well, but you do have to factor in a couple of things like the size of your room. How big is your room? If it's a really big room, then you might have a little bit of difficulty actually smelling the scents if you're like in a big size room. But if you're in a nice size, let's say an office space, you'll probably be able to smell it pretty good. And you'll be able to kind of get that feel of, the screeching tires, if you're on the racetrack, being able to, smell the tire smell. Or if you're shooting in Call of Duty, being able to, have that gunfire smell as well. They said it, like I said, it works pretty good. It does need to get a couple of the kinks worked out, of it. But right now it's still not on the market. They're still working on it thus far. It should be available soon though. The retail price is already there. So of course, in today's time, they can always update things via the internet. Just like today, I just got a update for the controller, the PlayStation 5 controller, where it's supposed to make the microphone a lot more clear, a lot more smooth. If you're playing with the PlayStation controller and you're using the built-in microphone inside of the controller itself, it's supposed to be a lot more clear. You're not supposed to hear the buttons clicking too much. You can make the controllers make it brighter. Or that might be the PlayStation 5. You can make the light brighter on it or dim it. So I'm just saying that to say that if they do need to work on this unit, they can always have a update, via download to actually get it more in sync with the games. Because that was the thing they said. They said that sometimes the cues were a little late where the scene was already over and it was just having you smell the gun, the gun smoke or the gunfire, or the forest smell, something like that. So they said if they can sync up the time a little bit better, it could be something. It really could, especially if this is something that you might be into or something you're interested in. So yeah, just look it up again. If I can find the name of it, it is called, hold on. Oh, it's called Game Scent. It's called the Game Scent. So look that up on Google. Check it out for yourself. Is this something that you guys will pick up? Is this something that interests you? Because for me, I am a little interested, just a little bit. If I could see a demo of it, maybe at Best Buy or at Micro Center or something like that. If it's really clicking and it's working, and it's making that much of a change, of a difference, and making me feel like I really am in the forest or I'm really, shooting the gun, and you can smell the gunfire. It could be something interesting, but I would love to get you guys' thoughts on this. Let's go ahead, though, and let's move it. By the way, though, before we move on, I do wonder, because they didn't tell how much these different scented bottles would cost. Now, if they're talking about coming out with between 20 and 30 by the end of the year, that can add up. And I do need to know, how long are these bottles lasting? Because if you got to pay $5 or $10 or $20 per bottle to refill them, and they only last maybe for, if you're playing every day, maybe last for like a week or two, that could be a real hindrance in getting somebody to want to spend that kind of money to, just have to continuously buy these different bottles, of scents to, kind of immerse you a little bit more into the game. That may be a bit of too much of a big ask, but we'll see with this, though. Let's move on. We're going to kind of speed through a little bit because we're coming up on 40 minutes. So, I got this next story. It was actually on Twitter. So just on a side note, oh yeah, I remembered I asked the question, would Xbox games sell on PlayStation? And apparently, now this was wild. Apparently the answer is yes, because according to industry analyst Benji Sales, Sea of Thieves is the #1 most pre-ordered game on the PlayStation. God damn! What? Oh, man. I couldn't believe that. Matter of fact, shout out to Crimson Phoenix as well. Crimson Phoenix hit me up, man, with that text showing that doggone Sea of Thieves was #1 on PlayStation. I said, man, I just saw this story like 20 minutes ago. That Benji Sales said that it was #1. Wow. #1. I don't know how long it lasted, but it doesn't matter. It made the #1 slot. Man, listen, if anybody thought that these games coming to PlayStation was a one-off, man, nope. Psych. Everything is not everything, but man, listen. Phil Spencer, Satya Nadella, Sarah Bond, all of these guys sat down. I'm sure when they saw those numbers coming in, #1, pre-ordered game on PlayStation 5, I know they were like, oh, let's go out and celebrate. Man, this ain't the end. This is not the end. We can expect to see a lot of Xbox games coming to PlayStation. Because if they can pull this off, now granted, pre-orders are one thing. Okay, we get it. You actually have to have the player base to make this thing work. So if they continue to have a great player base and they're actually making money, I mean, I'm talking like money over on PlayStation, oh, nothing is going to stop them from bringing over Halo. Nothing is going to stop them from bringing over Gears of War. What's that? What is to stop them? The only game that they will probably never bring over is Forza, and that is because PlayStation has Gran Turismo. That makes absolutely zero sense to do something like that. But when you have something breaking out with this much of a success, in the early stages of it, this much promise early on with Sea of Thieves, man, that slate, maybe not the whole slate, but a lot of games that we probably never thought would make it over to PlayStation, you can believe they are over there in Redmond right now asking each other, how can we do more of this? How can we do more of this without upsetting the fan base? I mean, darn, they don't give a darn if they upset the fan base. They in this thing for the money. It's about the bottom line. We might ruffle some feathers, but dag, over on PlayStation, they just may, they may buy more copies than they bought on Xbox. I mean, granted, and that's not a shot. That's not a shot because, to be fair, you got Game Pass over on Xbox. So how many people really are going to buy a game that they can actually get inside of Game Pass, to be fair? So when you talk about numbers like that, being able to sell on PlayStation, being the #1 most pre-ordered game, First time out the gate, shucks. Halo would do crazy probably. Halo, doggone Gears of War, any multiplayer game seems like would do pretty good over there on PlayStation. I'm not going to say throw anything up there. Let's not be unrealistic. But this also says to me as well, because listen, man, it sounds like a lot of cap going on over there on the PlayStation side, though. Everybody, including myself, said Sea of Thieves. Man, get that out of here. Who asked for this? Sea of Thieves, ain't nobody playing that. Who asked for this? And apparently, man, PlayStation guys was asking for it a lot because it is on their platform. But also, this does say as well that, as I referred to us as like the 1%, the hardcore gamers that really are into the industry, that know the inner workings of the industry, that know that something may appear to look like it's an exclusive, but it's not. They just got the marketing rights. You know, for somebody else, it appears, oh, that's exclusive to Xbox. No. For us, we get it. We understand what's going on. But for other people that aren't so much in the know, this also proves that it's more people that are just trying to play games and aren't really getting caught up into the console war or the console banter or things of that nature. They just want to play some dope, great games. And Sea of Thieves, you know, having that Disney content with Jack Sparrow in it, I'm sure that people are like, shucks, man, I just want to play this. I want to get on with this, see what this is about. They're not tripping that it's an Xbox game. They just want to play a dope game, you know? So, I mean, this is great. Shout out to them, you know, to the PlayStation community for actually showing support to Sea of Thieves, not shutting it and shutting it down like the internet would have us believe would be happening over there, you know. So, hey, I'm sure they're going to have a really good time with that and enjoy it, you know. But, hey, for the sake of time, let's go ahead because I ain't going to get y'all out of here in an hour. I thought I could pull it off, but I can't. Hold on, what time is it? Yeah, I'm going to have to speed this up because I got to get ready to get to work. You know, God, Doug, seems like every time I do these, I'm under the gun. But look, let's get into the next story. And this next story, I got it from Engadget. So it was confirmed this week that Xbox Game Pass subscribers and PC Game Pass and Game Pass Ultimate, these people with a Boosteroid membership can stream Game Pass titles along with supported titles purchased through the Microsoft Store on Windows. So some of the compatible games include Deathloop, Dishonored, Dishonored 2, Dishonored Death of the Outsider, Gears 5, Gears Tactics, God doggone Pentiment, and Ghostwire Tokyo. So if you're not aware on how to stream your games through Boosteroid, first you got to install the app, sign in, then browse to the library, tap and select Xbox as a filter. After that, choose the game you want, click play, and log into your Microsoft account with an active PC Game Pass or Game Pass Ultimate membership. Remember, it has to be active. So once you do that, Boosteroid is available on Windows. Yeah, that's all you got to do. So I'm just letting you guys know. It's available on Windows, Mac OS, Android, and Chrome OS. And as of May of last year, just talking about the number of players they have over on Boosteroid, they are sitting at 4 million users globally. So I thought this was interesting because you guys remember during the trial, the Activision trial, we heard about this company Boosteroid. They were in the talks with Boosteroid around the same time. I believe they were talking to NVIDIA, you know, making sure that NVIDIA was on, Nintendo was on track, and Boosteroid. They were making sure that they were showing the regulators, hey, we're trying to spread the love. Call of Duty can go any and everywhere. So, as a result of that, this is the result with Boosteroid. So if you are, again, a Boosteroid member, you'll be able to download those games as long as you have Game Pass on PC or Game Pass Ultimate on console. So they're finally kind of seeing a little bit of the some of the things that they were working on actually coming to fruition. I didn't expect this to happen this fast, but yeah, things are moving along pretty good. So with that 4 million user base already, hopefully in turn, Microsoft will be able to help Boosteroid grow, and Boosteroid will be able to help those Game Pass numbers. I don't know if they're going to help them grow, but I think it's really dope that you're able to get to some of your games through the Boosteroid app. So we'll see how this relationship, this business relationship evolves as time goes on. They got them for 10 years. They got to work with them. So we'll see what happens and what the results will be in the near future. But let's go ahead and let's move on in to the next story. Now, this story right here was very interesting, and I think it's quite telling because I got this story from Pure Xbox. So let's talk about my voice just doggone went to a high pitch right there. But let's talk about Moon Studios creative director Thomas Mahler. He said, not too long ago, he had some pretty choice words for the Xbox platform by saying, quote, "Best way you can do that is by just buying Ori," end of quote. So he was responding. Now, this is for some of you guys that may not know the backstory to this, but he was responding to people that wanted to support Moon Studios. But stuff really hit the fan when Twitter user Rebirth Marley responded on Twitter by saying, quote, "Why not on Xbox Store?" End of quote. That's when Thomas responded by saying, quote, "'Cause then people get it on Game Pass and that doesn't help Moon." End of quote. So that exchange happened on March 3rd. People were losing their mind. How are you going to say that? How can you say that didn't help Ori? Game Pass, Microsoft gave y'all the bag. Y'all accepted the bag. Why are you crying about it now? I mean, he had just erupted a lot of Xbox fans that were really, really upset with him. I think in some of his comments on Twitter, he said something like he just awoke the console warriors and all of this stuff. He said, look, that's not what I was trying to do. This brother said, I am console agnostic. His brother said, I play on everything. I love everybody. So he was like, it wasn't to really get anybody upset. He was just stating the facts. So people thought that from this exchange that it looked like this relationship that they had with Microsoft, this really good business relationship was going to be over. This thing was going to dissolve. He's telling Xbox, you need to put Ori on PlayStation. It's not available on PlayStation. Why not? We want other people to play our games. You're holding the game for hostage. I mean, this brother was saying a lot. So naturally, even I was like, dang, man, you are really burning some bridges with Xbox. Well, like I said, man, that whole thing, I was about to say thread, but that whole thing happened on March 3rd, that whole exchange. That's when it happened. So because of this back and forth, like I said, people thought it was going to be over. But then you fast forward to March 9th, where Mahler, and I hope I'm saying his last name correctly, it's spelled Mahler, Mahler or Mahler, was responding yet again on Twitter by saying, quote, "I didn't have any bad ending. I'm pretty sure," now this is crazy. He says, "I'm pretty sure we'll still do exciting things with Xbox in the future. We just wanted to ship Wicked on all platforms with crossplay support. And back then, that was not possible under Microsoft. I 100% believe in where Phil is heading. End of quote. So if you do the math, we are talking 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Not even a week later, 6 days, he comes out and he says that he is sure that him and Xbox, they will do things in the future. So this says to me, either, and look, I'm not in the room. I don't know what the contract said. I have zero inside information on this whole exchange. But to me, it said one or two things. Look, he knew that he messed up. He knew he was going to burn some bridges with his words. He was trying to, kind of walk back some of his comments that he said so that he could still work with Microsoft if the chance ever came up of happening again. That could have been one reason why he did it. Or the other reason, he wasn't mad to begin with. Fake outrage. Because it is no way, and this guy's been on this train for quite some time about having Ori be on the PlayStation platform. He has been definitely cheering that on to make that happen, saying, why, Phil, why won't you let it go? Won't you let PlayStation have it? It's on every platform but PlayStation. Why isn't it on PlayStation? Now, who knows? He could also be trying to appease the PlayStation fans because now his new game, No Sleep for the Wicked or something like that, which looks pretty good, by the way. It looks good. I don't know if I'll be picking that up per se, because I think it's more of a Souls-like game. So I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. But now that game is going to be available on all platforms and be cross-play, it seems like he doesn't really have a problem. He's trying to amend, some of the words that he said, and even said that he believes in where Phil is headed. Good grief. I don't know. Look, business is business. Nobody is going to, if they can help it, completely shut off a revenue stream, something to help them, to boost their sales, to give them a lump sum of money up front, through, putting your game on Game Pass, so nobody wants to completely shut off a possible funnel of extra money coming in, because I'm sure that once No Rest for the Wicked, whatever the name of that game is, I'm sure that eventually it's going to hit a ceiling. And once it hits a ceiling, I'm sure that Maller will not mind going to Microsoft and saying, hey guys, Phil, my friend, my buddy, the person I believe in your direction, how much would you give me for No Rest for the Wicked if I said, hey, put it on Game Pass? How much would you give me, Phil? How many hundreds of thousands or whatever the price would be? And I'm sure that probably sunk in after a while. And he's like, yeah, let me just kind of fall back and let me, kind of let everybody know, hey, everything is okay. We'll work again. I'm sure that is what he is talking about, them working together in the future. Matter of fact, I'm going to find the name of this game because I don't want to discredit this guy. I love Ori and the Blind Forest, one of my favorites. I'm actually looking at the collector's edition of Ori right now on my shelf, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Hey, Thomas, I bought your game, brother. I bought all three. of them. I didn't get them through Game Pass. So it is some of us on the Xbox side that will buy your game, brother. God darn. But let me see something. Hold on. What is the name of the latest game from Moon Studios? No Rest for the Wicked. That's what it's called. No Rest for the Wicked. So, Again, I'm sure that game will be coming to Game Pass possibly one day, and he didn't want to burn that bridge. But let's move on into the next story, because business is business. These people, again, they say one thing today and they're feeling a different way tomorrow. But anyway, I think we got 2 more stories left. Yeah, so in quick news, this is quick news. I got this from Gaming Bible. You can purchase a PS5 Slim Digital model for $399, and it comes with Spider-Man 2. Now, this deal is at Best Buy, GameStop, and Walmart. I didn't see where it was being advertised at Target. And the other thing is that I don't know how long this deal is going to be available. So if any of you guys were out there wanting to play Spider-Man 2, man, I got the hiccups bad. Pardon me. But if you were trying to play Spider-Man 2 and you don't mind having a PlayStation 5 all digital version of the console, then you can pick this up for $399. Hey, Lawrence Jones, my good brother, $399, baby. You know, you can have Spider-Man 2, the digital PlayStation 5, the whole 9, my brother. Now, again, this isn't the only one on sale, because they're also selling the PlayStation 5 physical version with the disc. You'll be able to buy that for $449.99, so $50 off, and it still comes with Spider-Man 2. Now, granted, I'm sure Spider-Man 2 is not going to be the physical edition in the box. It's probably going to be the code, but you will be able to get it, the physical PlayStation 5, for $449.99. Now, the other thing that I'm not sure of is how long this deal is going to take place. They didn't put a time limit on it. I know that Hiroki Totoki, he was not happy with the console sales, so I'm sure that this is a bit of a push for them to possibly get to that number that he wanted them to get to. And I mean, I think it's really, really great. $399 and $449.99 with Spider-Man 2. I mean, that's cheaper than what I paid for God of War, the God of War Ragnarok bundle. I got that for $549.99. And that was this time last year. I picked up the PlayStation 5 in March of last year, and I still paid over $550 for it. So for anybody getting it this year with Spider-Man 2, you are getting a very, very good deal. And this, again, just goes to show that PlayStation, they are trying to move units. And the other interesting thing about this is that with them being in the pole position of, you know, being the market leader, I know that some people will say Nintendo is the market leader, and technically they really are, but I'm talking about for this generation. We know that the Switch is not part of this generation, so that's why I'm prefacing it by saying they are the leader, you know, of this generation of console. So with them being in that position, it is interesting that they're still like, look, we're still hungry. We're willing to drop the price even more because we want more sales. And then you look over at Xbox, and they're in second place, a distant second place, and they dropped their console. This is the thing that trips me out. And Mike J, that brother was sending me some links where the Series X was, man, that joker was at a fantastic price point. But they have the data, and they mentioned it in one of their reports that they sold the most in December. That was their highest month of console sales. And the thing they mentioned was it was when they dropped the price. So I'm sitting here saying, look, you got PlayStation, who is, again, the market leader of this generation. They're dropping their price, and they're giving you, with that price drop, one of their best games of last year, their best game. Matter of fact, their only game first party wise of last year free with well, it ain't free. It's just included in the console with the console. They're giving that away. So I'm saying to myself, why won't Microsoft do the same thing? They could put Starfield in the box. Or if you don't, even if you don't want to put Starfield in the box, the better bet would be to put Game Pass in the box. A month or 3 months of Game Pass in the box for, let's say, the same price, $399 or $350. You might have to cut yourself a little deep, to try to get underneath where PlayStation is right now. But I really am a believer that if they would have dropped the Series X down to $350, they would start selling, especially with games like Senua's Saga coming out in May. And the other bevy of games that they have coming up, Call of Duty, we know that that's going to be in Game Pass when it releases, the newest one. They could really do some damage. Now, I'm not saying they're going to catch, Sony in 2 months or anything like that, but I really do believe that they would see some traction really start to go their way if they would have dropped the price. So, I mean, who knows? This just happened with PlayStation. Again, I don't know how long it's going to last. So if this is something that, you've been waiting for, you've been wanting to jump into the PlayStation ecosystem, and get a dope game included with it, then this may be a good time, depending on your financial situation for you to jump in and, be able to experience that PlayStation 5. Oh man, that PlayStation 5 experience. Good grief, it's great. But anyway, I'm going to move on into our final story of this week, and I got it from Gaming Bolt. So this next story is more of an update to what new DLC is coming to Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. So the first update releases March 20th, which is very soon, and it adds permadeath and speedrun modes. The spring update will feature boss attack, adding a boss rush mode and new outfits. Now in the summer, there will be a divine trials, described as, quote, new combat platform and puzzle challenges. So this seems like something for the more hardcore person that's, trying to get out there and really go through some hard trials and tribulations in the game. So, and it says this, the puzzle challenges, this is also going to include new amulets, outfits, and more. Now, the final piece of DLC that's going to be paid, you have to pay for that DLC, but it will feature a story. And that is supposed to release later this year. So they're giving away a ton of free content. Shout out to them, man. Wow. That's a lot of free content. So out of all of those contents, the only thing you have to pay for is the story DLC, which again, that's going to be released before the end of the year. But guys, I guess that is the end of the gaming news this week. Now, for the sake of time, I cannot play video game theater this week. So as a result of that, I just want to jump into the final section of the podcast. And of course, I know you guys saw the question already, and let's just go over it officially. The question for the week is, are GAAS games on the decline? Now, I only ask that because, if you look at Kill the Justice League, the hate, the vitriol that game received for being a, quote, GAAS game, it has truly tanked the sales of that game. It's tanked it. So much so that, again, when you look back at what WB released last year with Harry Potter, that game was just strictly a campaign only game. Didn't have to worry about it being a GAAS game. Didn't have a ton of microtransactions, nothing like that. It did so well again, it outsold Call of Duty for the first time in over a decade. A game was able to do that. So this game did amazingly well. And of course, Suicide Squad did so bad that WB said, we got to change our whole strategy. We got to rethink everything that we thought, because things are just not going the way that we hoped they would. So the question that I have is, we've always heard this thing where some gamers just do not like GAAS games, but they're some kind of way able to stay around. But then you look at games like Destiny, who was running the gamut for a long time. That game has definitely seen better days. And it's kind of fallen off. And of course, it's over a decade old. So I think that that's kind of natural. But you also have games like Fortnite that are flourishing right now and aren't showing any signs of slowing down. So much so, I think they added, I talked about it a couple of weeks ago, but they talked about it again. They're adding the instruments into the game for some kind of concert or something like that. I didn't get all the specifics on the update, but it just took place today. But yeah, the game is flourishing. So you have games like that, but then again, you have games like Kill the Justice League. So that's my question, man. I was so long-winded with that. Again, are GAAS games on the decline? I would love to get you guys' thoughts, opinions, ideas of this. And again, you can do it two different ways. You can be part of the conversation by either calling in, and the phone number is 380-0281, and let your voice be heard. Or you can email the show, and the email address is theanalogcirclepodcast@gmail.com. I was your host, Kiaun Mitchell, and again, I truly thank you guys for being here. Thank y'all. Thank y'all so much. So with that being said, before we officially wrap it up and put that infamous bow on it, always remember one thing. It is not about the consoles. It is about the games. Don't be committed to one console. If it's a console out there that has some games on it that you want to play, this ain't a marriage. You don't have to be committed to just that console. Go where the games are. Go to where the games are that appeal to you. That's all I got to say. So with that being said, I'm going to try to record on Wednesday. I have been struggling a little bit the last 2 weeks. So I'm going to say we are possibly going to be back at it again on Sunday. But there's always a possibility we might be back at it again next Wednesday. So you just got to stay tuned. But yeah, with that being said, as always, you guys take care. Be safe out there. Bye-bye.